They say some stories are just too terrifying to be true. But what if the most horrifying tales are the ones that bleed into our reality? What if the line between fiction and a cursed truth is thinner than you could ever imagine? You've seen the movie. You know the rules. You watch the tape, the phone rings, and 7 days later, you die. But the chilling story of Sadako and the cursed videotape didn't just spring from a writer's imagination. It has roots in a much older, much darker, and very real history. Tonight, we unearth the terrifying true story behind The Ring. The origins of the spectral girl with long black hair, crawling from a well to claim her victims, can be traced back to the early 20th century in Japan, a time when the nation was grappling with the collision of ancient traditions and the sudden influx of Western science. It was an era of spiritualism and intense public fascination with the supernatural, a perfect breeding ground for legends to be born. In this charged atmosphere, a woman named Chizuko Mifune emerged as a figure of both wonder and intense scrutiny. Born in 1886, Chizuko was said to possess clairvoyant abilities, a power known as Senrigen, or thousand-mile eyes. She claimed she could see things that were hidden, find lost objects, and even peer into the very souls of others. Her alleged powers captivated many, including Dr. Tomokichi Fukurai, a professor of psychology at the prestigious University of Tokyo. Dr. Fukurai was obsessed with proving the existence of extrasensory perception through scientific means. He saw Chizuko as the key to unlocking the mysteries of the human mind and bridging the gap between the spiritual and the physical world. Their collaboration began with a series of public demonstrations. Dr. Fukurai would seal messages inside lead pipes or hidden envelopes, and Chizuko, through intense concentration, would attempt to discern their contents. Early experiments were hailed as astonishing successes. She correctly identified characters and phrases, baffling the academics and journalists who gathered to witness these spectacles. Word of her incredible abilities spread like wildfire across Japan. She became a national sensation, a living conduit to the unseen world. People flocked to her, desperate for her to find missing relatives or locate lost fortunes. But with fame came a shadow of doubt that grew longer and darker with each demonstration. Skeptics began to question the validity of the experiments. They pointed out inconsistencies, suggested the possibility of trickery, and accused Dr. Fukurai of being a dupe, blinded by his desire to believe. The pressure mounted, and the scientific community demanded more rigorous, foolproof tests. The turning point came during a highly publicized demonstration in 1910. Before a crowd of reporters and scientists, the conditions were made impossibly strict. The test object was sealed under multiple layers of security, and Chizuko was watched with hawk-like intensity. This time, she failed. The once confident psychic seemed to falter under the piercing gaze of her critics. The results were inconclusive, and the public's adoration quickly curdled into scorn and ridicule. The media, which had once celebrated her as a prodigy, now branded her a fraud. Shamed, humiliated, and abandoned by Dr. Fukurai, who moved on to find other subjects, Chizuko's life spiraled into tragedy. Just a few months later, in January 1911, at the tender age of 24, she ended her own life by swallowing poison. Her story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the brutal cost of public scrutiny. The woman who could supposedly see everything had failed to foresee her own tragic downfall. But the story doesn't end there. Dr. Fukurai, undeterred by the Chizuko Mifune affair, soon found a new subject, one he believed possessed even more extraordinary powers. Her name was Sadako Takahashi. Unlike Chizuko's clairvoyance, Sadako's alleged ability was far more dramatic and unsettling. Nensha, or thoughtography. She claimed she could psychically project images from her mind directly onto unexposed photographic plates. This was not merely seeing the unseen, this was creating something from nothing, imprinting the very fabric of reality with the power of her thoughts. The concept was mind-bending, and for Dr. Fukurai, it was the ultimate proof of psychic phenomena he had been searching for. He began a new series of experiments, convinced that with Sadako, he would finally silence his detractors. The Nensha experiments were bizarre and theatrical. Sadako would take blank photographic plates, wrap them in paper, and hold them against her body or simply place them nearby. After a period of intense concentration, the plates would be developed and miraculously, images would appear. These were often Japanese characters or simple symbols that Sadako claimed to be projecting from her mind. The initial results were staggering, and Dr. Fukurai triumphantly published his findings, declaring that he had discovered a new and powerful force of the human spirit. He documented each session, detailing the ghostly images that emerged from the ether, seemingly willed into existence by Sadako's psychic energy. The scientific community, however, remained deeply skeptical, viewing Dr. Fukurai as a charlatan and his new subject as just another clever trickster. The parallels to Chizuko's story became eerily pronounced. As with his previous subject, Dr. Fukurai arranged a major public demonstration to validate Sadako's powers. The media was once again invited, but this time their tone was far from adulatory. It was hostile. They were there not to witness a miracle, but to expose a sham. During the experiment, Sadako was accused of switching the photographic plates with pre-exposed ones. The atmosphere turned ugly. She was heckled, called a fraud, and subjected to the same brutal public humiliation that had destroyed Chizuko Mifune. The demonstration was a catastrophic failure. The press viciously attacked both Sadako and Dr. Fukurai, effectively ending both of their careers. Dr. Fukurai was eventually forced to resign from his position at the University of Tokyo, his academic reputation in tatters. The fate of Sadako Takahashi is shrouded in more mystery. Some accounts say she fell ill and died shortly after the public shaming, succumbing to a disease like tuberculosis, her spirit broken. Other, more ominous whispers suggest that she too took her own life. These two tragic figures, Chizuko Mifune and Sadako Takahashi, became the raw material for author Koji Suzuki when he sat down to write his 1991 novel, Ring. He fused their stories, their powers, and their tragic ends into a single, terrifying entity. He took Chizuko's clairvoyance and public humiliation and combined it with Sadako Takahashi's thoughtography, the power to project images onto a medium. The photographic plates of the early 20th century became the videotape of the late 20th century. The name, of course, was taken directly from Sadako Takahashi, and thus Sadako Yamamura was born. In Suzuki's novel, Sadako is the illegitimate daughter of a famous psychic named Shizuko Yamamura, a clear stand-in for Chizuko Mifune. Like her real-life counterpart, Shizuko is studied by a university professor, publicly demonstrated, and ultimately driven to suicide after being branded a fraud. Her daughter, Sadako, inherits her psychic abilities, but they are warped into something monstrous. She possesses the power of Nensha Banjur, allowing her to burn images of terror onto a videotape. Betrayed and murdered, she is cast into a well, her rage and anguish seeping into the tape, creating the infamous curse. The well, that iconic and terrifying symbol of the story, also has its roots in Japanese history and folklore. The tale of the Bancho Sarayashiki, or the Dish Mansion at Bancho, is one of Japan's most famous ghost stories. It tells the story of a servant girl named Okiku, who is accused of breaking one of 10 precious heirloom plates. In a fit of rage, her master kills her and throws her body down the estate's well. From that day forward, every night, Okiku's mournful ghost would rise from the well and could be heard slowly, agonizingly, counting the plates. 1, 2, 3. When she reaches 9, she lets out a blood-curdling shriek of despair before starting over again. This image of a vengeful female spirit, a yurei, wronged in life and rising from a watery grave to seek retribution, is a cornerstone of Japanese horror. Suzuki masterfully wove this ancient trope into his modern narrative, trapping his Sadako not just in a well, but in an endless loop of rage and revenge, just like Okiku. The videotape itself becomes a modern version of the well, a dark sealed container holding a tormented spirit, and anyone who looks inside is doomed to hear her count down the days to their own death. So when you watch that grainy, distorted footage, the woman brushing her hair in a mirror, the crawling letters, the eye, and the final heart-stopping image of the well. You are not just watching a work of fiction. You are witnessing the culmination of a century of real-life tragedy, scientific controversy, and ancient folklore. You are seeing the ghost of Chizuko Mifune, the psychic shamed into an early grave. You are feeling the rage of Sadako Takahashi, whose incredible alleged powers led only to ruin. And you are hearing the endless, mournful count of Okiku, rising from her watery prison. The Ring is more than just a scary movie. It's an echo of real lives, real pain, and real mysteries that were never solved. It serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not creatures of fantasy, but the twisted reflections of human suffering, their stories refusing to die forever burned into our collective consciousness waiting for someone to press play.